Welcome to the real life show, Living with a Chronic Illness. We are your hosts, Cassie and Chelsea. I'm Cassie, a single mom living with a chronic illness who is extremely passionate about living a full and happy life.
And I'm Chelsea. I have a passion for helping people to put themselves first and to be the best version of themselves each and every day.
We came together to create the Spoonies Hub, an uplifting community that offers resources, guidance, support, and offers you the space to be yourself, be heard, and feel understood. We hope that by providing tips and tricks from experts, we help people with chronic conditions to thrive and live the lives they've dreamed of.
This show is not only for those who live with a chronic illness or disability, but their friends, family, spouses, and just anyone else existing on the earth. Our goal is to normalize having a chronic condition by sharing real stories with real people and to show the world how relatable those everyday struggles can be. There's a little something in here for everyone.
And a special shout out to our community at the Spoonies Hub. Thanks to your contributions, we are able to provide flexible work opportunities for Spoonies, donate to our nonprofit to help provide wellness treatments for those who need it, and be able to transcribe our podcast to make it more accessible for all. To learn more, visit our show notes.
Enjoy the show. Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's episode of the real life show, Living with a Chronic Illness. Today, Cassie and I are talking about a topic that we both are really passionate about and have a lot of fun with, and that is setting goals and setting intentions. So tomorrow, as you are listening to this episode, if you're listening to it on the day that comes out, is New Year's Eve. And we know that 2020 has been a year. Like, it's been a year, y'all, but you made it through. It through.
We've all made it through.
We did it.
If you're listening to this, you have done a great job because you survived.
You survived 2020. It's something to tell future people about that aren't yet born. Like, I always keep thinking about my kids or my grandkids are going to be like, where were you when you were in 2020? And I'm going to be like, well, I was at home a lot. But we also realize that starting a new year, there's not any like specific magic that happens if you don't take action and take steps to make your life a little bit better. But we also know that when you have a chronic illness or a condition or disability, that life is not always predictable. And so Cassie and I want to kind of walk through some of the processes that we use to set our goals, and then give you some tips and some tricks and some mindset shifts. So then that way you can really, really get behind what it is your goals are and what intentions you have for this year and like make some really cool shit happen.
Yeah. Cause like already I feel like when you have a chronic condition, or even just actually for like the regular humans too, goal setting can seem really intimidating sometimes, because you're like, oh my gosh, yeah, I have to reach these goals, or I failed if I didn't reach these goals, or you have to think of these like super big goals. And I know that I was always a little afraid of goal setting, and I kind of negative view about it myself until a year ago when Chelsea was like, hey, we should set some goals and do like a goal setting theme for one of our in-person meetings. And I was like, okay.
Yeah,
and then we
really love goals. I love goals. I'm obsessed with them. They're like planning is my favorite thing in the world. It makes me so happy.
Chelsea's the planner. And so, then I was like, okay, let me like wrap my mind around this a little bit and hear what you have to say about goals, because I was a little bit like, oh, it's not for me. My life is full of uncertainty, but actually it's really awesome. And Chelsea and I far exceeded so many of our goals for 2020. And we have set some amazing, incredible goals for 2021. And before we get into it, I say amazing and incredible goals. Some of them are tiny, like in comparison. Some of them are dream goals. And so it's all relative. So, okay, Chelsea's going to teach us stuff.
Well, and I also want to kind of point out, and we'll break this down as we keep going, but there's a difference between having like an intention for how you want to live your life and how you want to approach what happens to you compared to having a goal that you need to like check a box to accomplish. So for example, Cassie and I we were able to get our nonprofit approved. And so we have a goal of raising $150,000 for that nonprofit in 2021. And we raised zero in 2020.
Yeah.
It wasn't really fully approved. It started. So we're going from 0 to 150 grand, which is a lot, but we feel like it's doable. It's one of those dream goals. Yes, that's a box that we can check, but goals like that aren't our only goals.
And that's a huge goal. Like Chelsea said,
Yeah.
that's 0 to like 150, quite literally.
It's a big, and who knows, we might be coming back this time next year being like, y'all, we raised a lot more than that. You are amazing. Yeah. Thank you for helping us reach that goal. Or maybe we're sitting here being like, oh, we didn't quite reach it, but we still raised this much money and that's incredible. We helped this many people. But it's not just about those goals of, did you accomplish something? Mm-hmm. And that's something that I really had to learn this year, because 2020 fucked my goals up. Like mm-hmm. what I wanted at the beginning of this year and what even I wanted halfway through were different, because the pandemic changed things. And I realized that I wanted to prioritize different things in my life. And so one thing, as I was kind of reflecting back on this past year, I realized that my word for 2020 was trust. It was just trusting in myself, trusting that everything was going to work out okay. Didn't know I was going to have to do so much trusting that the world was going to be okay in some capacity. But I had to like live my entire life by kind of that word, and that helped me a lot. So looking back, maybe I didn't check every single box of like accomplishment and achievement goals that I wanted to, but I do really feel like I did just trust this past year.
You really did. And, I kind of forgot that your word was like trust for the year. And that is like, upon reflecting back of even us, doing this last year for our in-person meeting. You've come a freaking long way with trust.
I know.
And mine was rest. And I have definitely like slowed the F down and just rested. And I'm so much more present and like mm-hmm. grounded and calm. That's fun. I'm glad that you said that you reflected from last year. Yeah.
And sometimes, and also part of goal setting is reflecting on what you've done well and what you could do better on. But like, so for this next year, we have big check the box achievement goals, but my word for this next year is fun. It's how can I add just more fun into my daily life? How can I make the like mundane tasks be a little bit more fun? And so even if I'm sitting here this time next year being like, oh my God, I didn't hit any of my like income goals, or I didn't accomplish the things that I wanted to, if I can still say that I tried to add as much fun into my life as I could, I'm still successful. And so that's kind of like the workaround that I would really recommend when it comes to not feeling confident. If you don't feel confident in what's going to happen in your life, like you can still have rest be a theme, whether you're feeling like shit the entire year or you're feeling absolutely amazing. So you can still take that overall arching intention and add it into whatever life throws at you. Mm-hmm. So we're going to dive into a little bit. So what the fuck do you actually want? That's step number one. You have to figure out what it is you want. And this is something that I recommend to everybody. Like, dream big. Cassie and I are big dreamers. We're incredibly ambitious. We want to mm-hmm. have at some point a multi-million-dollar nonprofit and a very successful online business that we get to make a ton of money working from home and being able to talk to you guys professionally and get paid for it. Like, we have really big goals that I think some people would look at and be like, that's a lot. And actually I have people tell me all the time, why are you doing all the things that you're doing? I'm like, because I like it. And so your dream is your dream. Don't ever let anyone tell you that it's too big or it's too small. Your dream is your dream.
Yeah. And I think that I think it's really important too, to reflect on like what completing your goal might look like, in mm-hmm. the sense of, like I, in kind of like the beginning of the year, like spring-ish, COVID starting-ish, decided to start writing down like things I wanted to manifest every single day. And it was part of a kind of like goal setting / gratitude / manifesting / like, I just want to be intentional with the things that I'm asking for and what I want. and really focus on getting it. One of the things that I put on there was like, I want to have a home chef. Like I was like big future goals, you know, I was like, I want someone to, what I specifically wrote was, I want a home chef. I want my meals to be healthy, quick and easy and made for me. And I was like, I kept writing this over and over and over again. And then it was literally just, and like I said, this was like March, April, May, June, July, August. I had been writing, I want a home chef. I want a home chef. I want a home chef. Food is stressful to me. I want to eat better. I love food, but like preparing it is stressful. I am scared to eat. I need the decisions made for me. And then like end of the summer, like September-ish, I stopped writing it because I was just like, oh, part of me was like, I'm never going to get this. What am I thinking? Like I have a goal of having a home chef. I'm like a little broke right now, like the rest of us in a pandemic, you know? So I stopped writing it. Then somewhere along the line in my subconscious or manifested with the universe or whatever, I decided to look into home meal services and like the meal kits that you can get that get delivered to your house. And I am on I'll be getting week 4 this week. And it just occurred to me yesterday that the company I chose is called Home Chef. So I'm like, I literally was like reflecting on these goals because Chelsea and I are currently doing a goal kind of workshop thing right now. And one of them was like, reflect the last year, you know, and I was like, oh my God, I did not say specifically, I want someone to come and make my meals for me. I wrote, I want a home chef.
Yeah.
And that's now what I'm using. And I have to say, in just the month that I've been using this home chef service, it's amazing. In fact, while I was thinking of this, we need to see if they'll reach out and sponsor our podcast.
Yeah, I was thinking, can they sponsor? Home Chef, do you want to sponsor us?
They
love to talk about your food.
Yeah, for reals. They're quick and easy. It's like made me excited about eating again. I'm really enjoying the whole experience. And it didn't occur to me until yesterday that I manifested this and I reached this goal. And it's so when we say like there's nothing too big or too small, and when you dream, like why not dream? Like there I was, you know, being like, I want a home chef, you know, and I'm like, okay, maybe 10 years from now, you know, maybe I could have a home chef. But in fact, no, I technically have a home chef right now. Yeah, I got exactly what I asked for.
Someone else is cooking your meals. And so that like
isn't that crazy?
It's so crazy. As soon as you started telling, like everyone that's watching the video on the Spoonie Hub,
you knew where I was going.
Like my mouth dropped, and I was like, I know, because I knew what you'd been doing, and I just put it together. Oh my gosh! So
I know I just put it together too.
Dream big, and then I think there's something important that you were kind of alluding to, Cassie. That actually is the next step. Is so you figured out what the hell you want. Why do you want that? So yes, of course, the idea of having a private chef at home, a home chef, sounds freaking cool. I love food. I enjoy cooking, but I don't like to cook after I've worked a long day or had a busy day. And so I'm personally very lucky that my fiance is a very good cook. And so I don't have to cook all the time. But Cassie, what you were saying is food's stressful. It's something you enjoy, but it has a lot of stress in your life, having to make it, finding the energy to make it, deciding what it is, all of those different steps. That's why you wanted to basically pass off the food preparation decision-making to something else. And in your head, it was a home chef person that came into your house and cooked for you. The why is what's going to keep you working on your intentions or on your goals, no matter what the hell the world throws at you. Because we just lived through a pandemic. No, okay, it's not even over yet. We still have a lot of time left in this. And that why of you just don't want to have to worry about dealing with food and you just want it to be done for you, that's pretty important.
Yeah.
Because that's going to help keep you finding different ways. That's what led you to look up the meal prep delivery services, because there's a ton out there anymore.
I know. Isn't that just like the funniest thing?
Why?
It was.
Continued why was what was motivating you to keep going. So one of my goals for this year is I am getting married the next fall. And probably a year or two after that, I'm not totally sure, like we were thinking about starting a family. And it is very important to me that if that's something that I'm going to do, that I really want to take care of myself to the best of my ability. I want to be as healthy as I can be going into that next stage of my life. And I also know as a health coach that making healthy changes in your life, it's a hell of a lot easier to ease them in over time than be like, let's change your entire lifestyle in one day. So I want to spend the next year of my life being really, really healthy, so I feel super, super amazing when we get married, and I'm starting to prepare my body to do other things in our life. So that's the why. It's what I want and why. And then next step, I've kind of lost my train of thought.
Well, you were gonna say you were talking about how you're starting
as we keep going, because I then realized that the next step in our goal setting thing is gonna kind of lead into what I was gonna say next.
Perfect.
So,
and
sorry,
I'll share that one of my biggest goals next year, like Chelsea mentioned, is we really want to raise $150,000 next year for our nonprofit so that we can give money to all of you wonderful Spoonies for the wellness treatments that you so desperately need and want, that will help you feel amazing. And the why is because I have been that Spoonie for years, where massages would make me feel so much better, with functional medicine or nutrition would make me feel so much better, and I couldn't afford it, and I couldn't make the time necessarily to, or have the spoons to make the money to afford it. And having a nonprofit that would pay for things like that would have been life-changing for me. And so Chelsea and I want to do that for others. So we're setting this huge goal, and our why is fucking strong.
Yes. We're very passionate about it. So we'll be kind of using those examples throughout the rest of this podcast to kind of show how we're using this process in our own lives as well. So then the next step, you figured out what the frick it is you want and why that's so important to you. And then this next step, start to kind of feel like what seems realistic. Because maybe you're sitting there like Cassie was and being like, I want a home chef. And in your mind, you're like, oh, that's a long way away to be able to build up the income, to be able to afford someone to come into the home to do that stuff. But maybe now if you're listening to this, you're like, oh, but I could do a meal prep service, which actually some of them are about the same price as going and getting food from the grocery
This one is like $6 to $9 per person per meal. It's totally reasonable. It's like $65 to $75 a week.
Which is like what I spend at the grocery store.
Yeah, I have been like extremely happy with it so far.
So just kind of start thinking about like what from your dream life feels realistic now. For me, I know when it comes to my health, I'm not going to be in perfect health by snapping my fingers, but I do know that there's a few things that I can start doing over the next year that will help me get a little bit closer. So just kind of finding out those things. You want them to feel doable, but also a little challenging. So that's why Cassie and I, for the nonprofit goal, picked $150,000. Nonprofits, they can make millions of dollars. They collect millions and millions of dollars in donations. So obviously we could collect way more than $150K. But it's our first year. We're going to be a brand new nonprofit. So $150,000 feels exciting. Like if we hit that, we're going to freaking party. And it feels doable. Like it's exciting and doable. So kind of finding that balance when you start reflecting on some of your goals as well. So once you started to think about kind of these goals that start to feel really exciting, but maybe a little scary, start breaking them down into smaller goals. All right. So for my health goal, there are some bigger things that I want to accomplish. So one of them is I want to feel incredibly confident and incredibly beautiful and pretty and sexy in my wedding dress on my wedding day, which if nothing changed about my body right this second, I would. I love my dress. And I know for me that it is not the number on the scale that tends to reflect how I feel about myself. It's when I'm actually taking care of myself that I feel my best. Like if I'm consistently exercising, I'm fueling my body well, I'm sleeping, I'm drinking lots of water. When I do those things, regardless of the physical size of my body, I tend to feel very, very confident and very, very good about myself. So I just need to be consistent, really, is what I've learned. That being said, life is not always consistent. So for me, being consistent doesn't mean that every single week I'm working out 5 times a week for an hour. My goal is that I'm going to intentionally move my body 4 times a week for around 10 or 15 minutes at least. Because I just know that there's some days that that's all I'm going to get, 15 minutes and we're done. And there's other days that I could do an hour. So for right now, starting off the year, it's all about creating that consistency of just doing it. Later on in the year, I could maybe change to see if things need to be a little bit different, if it's not working.
Well, I really like that you're saying, you're committing to moving intentionally for 15 minutes. Like, I know that especially when it comes to movement, so many people are like, if I don't work out this whole hour, like I'm not going to be able to I'm not doing it, not doing enough. And the 15 minutes is again, like making it feel attainable. Mm-hmm. And I think I'm just really glad that everyone can hear that even those of us who are healthy or a fitness professional like Chelsea, who doesn't have a chronic condition, is still saying, I'm just shooting for 15 minutes of movement, and I think that that's just like some of our movement videos in the Spoonie Hub are only like 10 to 20 minutes mm-hmm. because for a lot of us, that's enough. So I'm just glad that you're sharing that with you, like exercising and trying to be healthy. That doesn't mean an hour, 5 days a week. Mm-hmm.
Well, and to me, by saying, and this is kind of where, like, if you take your big goal and you break it down into smaller goals, it just makes it an easier bite size to chew. Mm-hmm. Like, we're not going to try to raise $150,000 in a day. Mm-hmm. That'd be cool.
That'd be amazing.
That'd be cool. But like, that's not what we're going to go for. We're like, we have our first fundraising round coming in September, and if we hit $10,000, I'm gonna throw myself a party.
Wait, February.
I meant February. I'm sorry. Sometimes I think September. One thing. Okay, so I don't know if this has come up on the podcast yet, and I don't know if it's actually a thing, but I feel like I have a form of dyslexia because I will think one thing and I will say something different. And I do it with numbers all the time. I would like think 64, but I'll say 46.
Oh, funny. Well, yes, September and February do sound very alike, so I'll give you a break. But yeah, people listening, our first fundraiser for the nonprofit in February. Yeah. And so February. So to try and break down this dream goal of 150,000 for next year, it might be good for us to have a goal of maybe like 25 to 40,000 for this first
or even
quarter.
Like 10,000, because it's the first time that we've ever been like, hey, we're a nonprofit.
Any money we're going to be grateful for. But basically, if we don't set our dreams big, like the way that Chelsea and I, especially with everything that we're doing, is the bigger that we set our dreams for this, the more people we can help. Uh-huh. So those of you who are like, oh my God, they're going to raise 150 for a nonprofit. Think of it like, oh my God, they're going to raise 150 for a nonprofit and give this money to all these people to help mm-hmm. them. That's how we're thinking about it. So so we're setting our hopes high, but we'll be happy even if we only raise 10 next year.
So take your big goals and break them down into littler mm-hmm. goals. And so one thing that I like to do is I set big year-long goals, but then what I do is it's based off of the book, The 12-Week Year, which if you're into personal development and productivity, you might enjoy it. But basically the concept is you take your 3 months, your 12 weeks, and you put just as much of an emphasis on reaching those goals as you would in those 12 weeks as you would in the entire year. And because there's always a big push at the end of the year to hit your goals. And I like that because life changes, and I like being able to every few months be like, is this working for me or is it not working for me? And there's nothing wrong with saying that you'd set a goal and then you change it. And so that's why I started off by saying, hey, if I can move 4 days a week intentionally for about 15 minutes, and about is like, really want to emphasize that, because if there's a day that I get on for like 5 minutes to ride my bike downstairs, that's good. I sprained my ankle 2 weeks ago, took a break from working out, got on the bike, 5 minutes in, my ankle was like hello, you are not 16 anymore. I do not heal in 3 days. Please stop doing this to me. And I was like, okay. So I only did 5 minutes. But I don't mean I only did 5 minutes and, oh, that's a bad thing. I still moved my body for 5 minutes. That's better than nothing. So you have a little bit of flexibility. And that's where it goes back to, what is your intention behind the action you're taking, the goals that you have, which I think is kind of what we're talking about next. So yes, you make your goals, you have your dream, you have your why that'll keep you motivated and keep you going. You started to break down these bigger goals into smaller things that are easier to manage. Then you actually have to do something. Part of me trying to get as healthy as I can is I have been a bad example of going to the doctor for consistent checkups. I don't have a primary care physician. I cannot tell you the last time that I had a primary care physician. I think the only time I've had blood work done was when I was 15 and I had mono. Yes. So I don't know what type of blood that I have. I don't know what my insulin levels or blood sugar levels are. I don't know what my cholesterol is. I don't know any of that. And while I think that that's unfortunately a little bit common in our, at least American healthcare system, where younger people are thrown into the, hey, you're young and healthy, you're fine, instead of keeping these records early on to notice when something bad is happening before it actually happens. I'm trying to take action to change that. So it is on my list to make an appointment at a doctor's office in town that really aligns with the type of healthcare that I believe in. It's very preventative focused. And so there's something about calling on the phone that I just am not good at. Like I'm just, it's a weird thing. I have this weird thing about calling to make appointments when they make it, but if I can make it online, I'm a lot more proactive with it. But if I have to like call and talk to someone, I don't know what it is. My introvert side flares up and I'm like, hey, but that's one of those like big things that I need to do this year that I know in the long term will help me feel better and take better care of myself.
Yeah.
So,
and like, as far as like you said, like breaking down, like what do you need? What action do you need to take to accomplish this goal? For example, right now, I need to set up a bank account for our nonprofit. We can't get any money, which I'm doing. But that's what I mean is like breaking it down. Like in our minds, we're like, okay, yeah, we'd like all of this money for our nonprofit, please. And then it's like, okay, breaking it down. Well, step 1 would be to get a bank account for the money to go into. Yep. Step 2 would be website. We already kind of have one up. Step 3 would be donate button on website.
Yes.
To bank account. So, it might be like, if you do have this giant goal, really, you do have to break it down sometimes so small to what I'm doing. Like I said, setting up a bank account, making a button to donate to this bank account for the nonprofit. And then step 4 would then be, okay, how do we tell people about our nonprofit? How do we then, begin this like fundraising and such? So it really, like, sometimes you do have to break it down so small. Like for Chelsea, she's like, okay, so I need to just make a phone call.
I need to dial the number and talk
dial
to
the
someone.
number. And then she's basically halfway there.
Yeah, it's one of those small things.
Yeah, me setting up a bank account is like an 1/8 of the way there, or a 16th of the way there, but I can't do any of the rest without this part. So I think sharing that is just, again, like, you sometimes breaking down your goals can be so simple or broken down to where you feel like it shouldn't even be on the list. But you know what? It is on the list, because then you get to check it off. And then you're like, I did it. I feel accomplished.
And which is what we're going to talk about in a moment is celebrating. But before we go on to that, going back to the very beginning of how you're talking about, it's not just about the goals that you can check off. It's about the intention. Picking an intention that you can kind of live your life of every day is a good way of making sure that you're still living in alignment with those goals, with those dreams, even if your day happens to be that you're lying in bed. Okay. Like for me, I really want, like, my word for 2021 is fun. So that fun and that consistency that I really want to find when it comes to taking care of my physical health I can put those together and I can make sure that the workouts I'm doing, the way that I'm moving my body is fun and enjoyable for me. I'm a big believer is you should not eat foods that you do not enjoy. Now, I'm not saying that you need to eat chocolate and tea all the time, because that's what I would if I only ate things I purely enjoyed. But like, if you don't like a certain type of salad, don't eat the certain type of salad. Or if there's just like a certain type of bread you don't like, don't eat it. Like, eat things that make you feel good, that you also enjoy. I feel like there's enough options out there in the world that you can find that. If you can't, DM us on Instagram, and I'll apologize for making a blanket statement that didn't work out for you. But find that intention. That way you can just live your life that way. So like, if I'm like, oh, I'm gonna do these workouts so many times a week, but then the one day I'm like, I really don't want to go do this workout, but taking my dogs for a walk sounds like a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Hey, I'm still meeting that intention.
Yeah, that's a great idea, or a great point. And one thing just to add on to that too, because I know that like the goals we're referring to for 2021 are really different, like with you keeping yourself healthy. And I'm sharing my goal is this giant one for the nonprofit. For 2020, one of my goals was just to read more. I wanted to read more books. I love reading. And I was having a really hard time doing that the first several months. Then when the pandemic started, I was like, ooh, yeah, this is my opportunity to read. And in my mind, I kept thinking like I was failing, because I'm like, ooh, I have to take all this time to make sure I can read all these books while the country shut down. And I put all this pressure on it. And then I finally got set with my intention of, I need to shut my mind off so that I can like rest better. And one of the only ways for me to do that is by reading. And so at night, I was like, I'm not going to watch a show, in bed right up until I'm going to sleep. I'm going to shut off the show an hour before I want to be asleep and read my book and listen to a little bit of music, read my Kindle. And as soon as I shifted my intention of, instead of just like, I want to read all the books because I do love to read, and made the intention like, reading is beneficial to me for all of these different reasons, I have now read like 20 books since starting that in like June. And it's just from like, okay, tonight when I, turn off my light and read my Kindle, I'm just going to do 10 minutes. But the next thing I know, I'm like 4 chapters in. And so I just wanted to share that, because having your intention behind it, the more that, again, like Chelsea was saying, that you can get down to your why, because just shifting my intention has made me complete that goal above and beyond what I originally wanted to reach or whatever.
And that's kind of like what I hope all of you listening get out of this, is that it's not always about setting these big, fancy, lofty goals and being able to check off the box. It's about, are you living your everyday life as someone who reaches goals like that? Like, yes, we want to raise $150,000 for the nonprofit, but really we just want to help people and impact lives. So regardless of how much money we are or are not able to raise, as long as we're coming from that place, we've been successful. And so even if you feel like your life is really unpredictable, you can still accomplish so much and feel very accomplished when you add in this kind of other intention setting aspect. So highly recommend that you add it in. Pardon the interruption, but Cassie and I want to make sure that you know about this amazing resource that we are so excited to be able to offer you guys. We put our heads together and Cassie and I created our Mastering Energy Management Workbook. It is a 21-day workbook designed to get you in touch with your energy, what you really want in your life, and then give you tools to actually make that freaking happen. Cassie and I have gone through this process ourselves multiple times, and each time we learn something new and we get a little bit more in touch with ourselves and our energy levels. You can find our workbook on Amazon for either a Kindle copy or a paperback copy, and the link will be in the show notes. We also have 21 days of podcasts going through each day of the workbook. So if you want to get an idea of what we're talking about, make sure to check those out on our podcast. Now back to the show. The last little tip that we have for you when it comes to creating goals is create a reflection system. Because goals change, life changes, circumstances change, all these different things change in life, and we want to make sure that we are adjusting the action we're taking and our goals themselves to work with our actual life. So, for example, one of the things when it comes to me being as healthy as I possibly can be, as I get married and as the rest of my life kind of keeps unfolding, is I'm currently having like a lot of hormonal acne under my jaw, or I've been told it's a hormonal area. I'm guessing it's hormonal. The rest of my face is fine, besides the maskne from wearing masks while working, which is, again, something I'm more than happy to deal with because it's keeping myself and other people safe. But for me, this the fact that I was very fortunate. I did not have bad acne when I was growing up, but I'm 26, almost 27. And I am now having some of the worst breakouts of my entire life in a very hormonal area. That seems like a red flag to me. And so as I'm trying to get healthy, as I'm going to doctors to figure out why is it happening, I might find out that there's something going on with my health that I had no idea about that is going to take precedence over everything else. Or I might find out that it's really nothing and a minor tweak in my lifestyle will make it go away. Who knows? I don't know. Life is unpredictable at times. So you just have to be able to reflect on, are your goals still meeting you where you really need to put your energy and put your focus? So kind of just, that's why I really like the 12-week year process, where through every 3 months, so 4 times during the year, you're actually like, is this working? Is this what I really want? Because you're allowed to change your mind and you get to adjust as you need to. But again, you still kind of sometimes have that overarching intention, that overarching why that helps you drive yourself forward to make decisions that actually truly deeply matter to you.
Yeah. Yeah. And like, just being a little bit flexible, like you were saying. Like I made a goal just recently of like, I don't know, maybe like a month or so ago. Since my surgery, I've just lost so much strength and I'm having a lot of like pelvic pain and pelvic floor pain. And if I'm using my pelvic floor when I'm exercising, it's causing me pain for days. Like I'm definitely having some issues. And so I made a goal of just adding more movement in. It was like walks or Pilates or whatever movement, because I'm like, I just need to get my strength back. And I started I told myself I'm going to walk 3 days a week at least, and I'm going to do 30 minutes of working out at home 3 days a week. And I quickly realized that the 30 minutes working out at home was too much. So then I was like, okay, I'm just going to do the 15 minutes. So I would like turn on the video and I would do 10 to 15 minutes. And then I realized if I did that like in the morning, then I was sedentary most of the day. And then my butt would hurt because of that. So then I started adding in that second 15 minutes of the half-hour video at night in the evening before I got into bed. And I just moved really gently. And that seemed to be working for me better, like 2 to 3 days a week ish, but I'm just being really kind to myself. So maybe you just need to your goals might come at different times is what I'm saying. And you might have to adjust them and be a little flexible. That's why I think it's so great that Chelsea's like, I'm just starting with intentionally moving my body for 15 minutes this many days a week. Because sometimes picking a half hour like I chose isn't realistic for whatever the reason. For Chelsea, it might be more timing or an ankle injury. And for me, it's more like my butt hurts if I do more than 15 minutes.
Well, and I just know that my workouts tend to be at times that I could be working on other stuff, or I could be sitting down and reading my book, or I could be spending time with my fiance. And it's just a lot easier to wrap my mind around 15 minutes than an hour. And so, I mean, I'm not going to lie. Sometimes I go down with the intention of being like, I'm going to do 15 minutes. I go down to our little home gym in our basement, get on my bike, and I'm going to ride for 15 minutes. And then I ended up being like, actually, I want to do another class. I use the pillow to nap because even though I did teach cycle classes for a very long time, I need someone to tell me what to do, or I'm not going to do it. Because I'm very good at being able to talk myself out of something. And I justify it, be like, well, I'm a certified exercise physiologist. I have my master's in exercise science. I know best. So I don't have to do this exercise. It's fine. So I just need someone to tell me to do what I need to do.
Totes.
And so realizing that about yourself is also important. Like, what do you need to accomplish that goal? What support do you need? And so, yeah, I'll go down and sometimes I'll do 30, 45 minutes worth of cycling. Or if I'm doing a Pilates workout, I'll kind of do the same thing. I'll start a video. Maybe I only do 15 minutes of it. Maybe I do 30. Maybe I'm going to do it for the entire hour. But it's for me so much easier mentally to do it for like 10 or 15 minutes. And if I want to do more, I can keep doing more.
Totes.
So, yeah. The last thing that I want to kind of bring up when it comes to reflection is celebrate the shit you accomplish, because chances are you are accomplishing a hell of a lot more than you think you are. Like when Cassie and I reflected on 2020, we did a lot.
Yeah.
We started a podcast. We launched our resource library at mywellnesshub.co. We launched the Spoonie Hub at mywellnesshub.co/the-Spoonie-hub. We
merch.
We have
merchandise. We have cute Spoonie merch,
which I'm wearing one of our shirts today. I'm very excited about it.
We have super cute Spoonie merch. We have a workbook, Mastering Energy Management. That's awesome. I'm really fucking proud of, man. It's awesome.
We've met, I don't know how many other amazing people through this podcast.
Connections. Oh my God. The connections we've made have been one of the best things this year that we did not know was going to happen.
We were picked to be Airy change makers,
that was huge.
This is we're coming up on almost a year since we found out that we won. And I'm slightly
since we entered.
I know, since we entered. Yes, it's been almost a year, and I'm still kind of dumbfounded.
We started a nonprofit.
And that just has to do with things that Cassie and I have done together. That doesn't include anything that Cassie's done on her own or I've done on my own.
Adapting from just we both went from teaching Pilates in person to online to in person to hybrid to online and in person. Yeah. It's just been so many changes, and we have both survived through COVID. One of us has had COVID. Chelsea, not me yet. Yeah. And, so yeah, we've come such a long way. And I think too, with reflecting and celebrating and so many of those accomplishments that are somewhat tangible accomplishments that we've shared in a lot of ways. One of the biggest things I think that we're each proud of is Chelsea has given into the trust, and
I had big trust issues. I'm not exactly sure where they came from, but I had big trust issues.
Yeah. And she has really been okay, so we were doing planning this weekend for our 2021, and in the calendar, we literally put things in our planners. She bought me a planner for Christmas, people. So
this is the type of person I am. I am literally that much of a planner that I'm you and need to have a planner.
We have matching planners.
I know.
And so we were putting stuff in the planner for the whole year of 2021. And the fact that Chelsea was we're doing this in pencil because, things might change. I was that's a pretty big deal that Chelsea's hey, I'm open to the fact that we need to be flexible. Things might change. We never know might happen. And I was kind of
I don't know what my life is going to look like this time next year. 100%.
And that we were these are our giant goals. This is what we're planning on. And Chelsea was and we don't always know how we're going to get there, but we're going to get there. These were big things. And that was a huge part of the changes this year for Chelsea. For me, I have felt guilty about resting for as long as I can possibly remember. And in my relationships, a lot of them, they would make me feel guilty for resting or lazy or, a burden or whatever. And I've come such a long way this year that I realize I am a better version of me when I do take time for myself and I rest for myself or do things for myself to give me more spoons for the people I love. And I think another probably big one would be I might be a little bit less cynical about men, and I might believe a little bit that there's the possibility of like love and a relationship, because I had one of those, even though it was long distance. I opened up and I got a little vulnerable and sensitive when I know that close friends of mine were like worried that I was never going to open my heart to a man in the future ever again. So I came a long way in that way. And I'm really trying to be consciously like not shutting down my heart now with like the future. So we've each like overcome things ourselves with that reflection that I think are worth mentioning. So when you're reflecting back, it's not just ticking off the boxes and what did you accomplish? What did you produce in 2020? It's more like, what happened for you internally too? Self-growth too.
And Cassie and I are both very fortunate that we have each other to have these conversations with. We both get very, very vulnerable with each other. I think Cassie is one of the people that knows me better than most people out there. And we realize that you might not have that same support system in your life right now. And that's okay, because we're here for you. So we would love, if you feel like you have someone in your life that's close to you that you can talk to, go talk to them. But you can also talk to us. Like, we would love to hear about what you're proud of from this year, from this past year, what your goals are for 2020, what your intentions are, what things you want to accomplish, is how you want to live your life. Like, share that with us. We have a thread in the Spoonie Hub on our community Discord that we talk on, that's all about intention setting and helping kind of share that and hold each other accountable. But even if you're not a Spoonie Hub member, come hang or just message us. Find us on Instagram at The Real Spoonies Unite, or send us an email, hello@therealspooniesunite.com. And we would love to be those people that you can share that with if you feel like you don't have that in your life. So we're here for you. We're cheering for you. And y'all, we made it through 2020. So 2021 it's going to be better because of all the lessons we learned in 2020.
Yeah. And be kind to yourself and be gentle with yourself. It was a hell of a year and a heavy year at times. And so it's also okay if you feel like you just didn't do anything this year except make it through. That's okay too.
Yep.
Well, so our 20-minute episode was more like 45 minutes. What a shocker.
Of this, we were like, yeah, we can do this in 20. Apparently we like to talk. We will keep you updated, of course, on our goals. I will keep you updated on how I'm taking care of myself physically and how my health is going. And Cassie will also keep you updated on our nonprofit fundraising goals.
Yay!
So, yay! Otherwise, have a fantastic rest of your day. If you are listening to this before New Year's Eve, have a fun, safe holiday. Or if you're listening to this at a different time, then just have a fun, safe day.
Thanks for listening. If you love this podcast and want to show your support, please leave a review, share the podcast with others, or join us in the Spoonie Hub.
If you'd like to connect with Cassie and I, you can find us on Instagram at The Real Spoonies Unite, or on our website, mywellnesshub.co, where you can find all sorts of resources and you can find the Spoonie Hub. Talk to you soon.